Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Stampin' Chat Live. I'm Gina from Gina K Designs, and it's great to see all of you coming in from all around the world. Tonight, we're going to have a bit of fun because I'm going to show you a fun technique. Now, I know some of you are going to say, oh, I've seen this before, but there's always new people out there that haven't seen these techniques, and sometimes it's fun to be reminded of a technique. So this is an oldie but goodie, and it's a tone-on-tone embossing. And I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do it, including using embossing powder and using embossing folders. Just some fun ways to do it. But before we get started, let's say hello to Tom. Hey, Tom.
Hey, happy morning, after, evening, crafter, evening. We need a word that greets because there's people here. It's 8 o'clock in the morning in Australia.
That's true. So we can't really say, like on Thursday, we always say crafternoon, but it's only crafternoon here.
Well, and it's not even crafternoon here if you're in Australia when you're watching crafternoon. So well, we need like a good hither and yon greeting.
Okay, well, you're the wordsmith, so I'm going to leave that up to you to come up with a word for that.
Well, hi, everybody. Glad you could join us. Thanks for being here. Let her rip, girl. Have some fun.
All right. And you'll be back later with a word of the day?
I think so.
Okay, good. That's always the highlight of the show. It has nothing to do with card making, really. Okay, well, let's get started right away. So for those of you who have never seen a tone-on-tone kind of thing before, or don't really think about it that much, you can create beautiful backgrounds using the same exact color, but in two different ways. And you may not always have the appropriate ink color to do this, but as long as you have an embossing ink and some embossing powder, you can usually achieve a pretty cool look. Now, I like doing tone-on-tone, not just with color. I mean, I love the blue tone-on-tones, the red tone-on-tones, all of that. But I also like the metallic tone-on-tones. So why don't we start there? Let's get some gold cardstock and some silver cardstock, and let's do some tone-on-tone looks. Now, tonight is more about the techniques and less about the card making, but if I have time, I'll whip a card up out of one of these backgrounds. So to begin, I'm going to get my paper cutter here, and I am going to start with some gold cardstock. And gold is always fun. Now, this is the Gina K Designs metallic gold cardstock. I wouldn't be doing these techniques because I know it's frustrating when we're out of stock on certain things, but I did get word that our gold and silver cardstock are shipping, and I do think we have some in stock. And also our gold and silver embossing powders are already en route to us and should be here within the next 2 days. So if you don't have gold or silver embossing powder and it's on your wish list, make sure you jump onto the notify me on our website. And as soon as it comes in, you'll get an email. But we've got lots of it coming because the holidays are coming up. And who doesn't like to make a few holiday cards with some gold or silver embossing powder? Now, one of the things that I really like to do when I'm doing a tone-on-tone look with metallics is I like to use a brushed metallic cardstock like our gold and like our silver here. You see how our silver has a brushed finish to it? I like to use that, and then I like to use a bit of a shinier embossing powder with it. It really creates a beautiful look. Now, if you are somebody maybe that is going to some anniversary parties this year or celebrating some special anniversaries, like a silver anniversary, a 25th, or a gold anniversary, a 50th, this is a gorgeous way to make a card for those types of events. So I'm going to start with my Misty. Now, I pulled a couple of my favorite stamp sets to do this tone-on-tone look with, and one of them is this one right here called Flowing Florals. I love this corner stamp for this technique. I think it's beautiful. The other one I love, and I know you guys love this too, is the Holiday Tapestry. These just create such beautiful tone on tone looks. So I thought we would just focus on these two stamp sets. Plus, I know so many of you have these already that you could like get started on these tonight if you wanted. And these also make beautiful backdrops for very elegant holiday cards. So I'm going to start with a little bit of embossing magic, and I'm just going to put that over my cardstock to try to prevent the embossing powder from sticking to where I don't want it to stick. There's a lot of static, and sometimes you get oil from lotion on your hands, and by rubbing this embossing magic pad over everything, you eliminate that. Now let's start with the flowing florals for this one. So I'm going to use this image down here at the bottom. I think it's a great image, but you can also do this with single images and just stamp them all over the background to create a background. You can also do, remember last week I did the leaf card where I just stamped all in color? You could do the same thing with a Versamark pad or a Gina K Designs Embossing and Watermark pad and create a beautiful autumn card too. Now I'm going to just plop this right down here in this bottom corner. And then I'm going to pick that up with the door of my Misty. Make sure that's in place. Now, I am using the Gina K Designs Embossing and Watermark ink, but you can use any embossing and watermark ink that you want. Okay. So I'm going to start by inking this up. Let's get a lot of ink on here. This is a nice, solid, chunky stamp, so you do want to get enough ink on this. Okay, and then I'm going to stamp it here. Now, I actually like to do this whole thing. I like to do the whole process on this side and then flip it and do the whole process on the other side. So that's what I'm going to do. So now I have a clothespin here to hold it, and I am going to get some of the fine detail gold embossing powder. And welcome, everybody. It is great to see so many of you popping in. We hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. You're right, Tom. It might even be a different date in places that people are tuning in from. Oh, my gosh. I didn't even think of that. Okay, and then I'm just going to wipe away any powder from any spots that I don't want it. I think I had some lotion on my hands there and may have missed that with the embossing magic pad. Now, I don't know if you could see that. I think you can. That's the way the powder looks right now. Not all that exciting, a little bit drab. I'm going to put this powder back, and then I am going to get my heat tool. Now, you can use any heat tool. I use the Wagner heat tool. I like how quickly it embosses. I also like to heat it up beforehand. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm heating it up a little bit beforehand, just to get it nice and hot. And that prevents some warping, because the longer you emboss, the more your cardstock will warp. Oh, good. I'm glad you guys can see it. Thank you for confirming that. Okay. So now we are going to start the embossing. And I love that this is both gold, metallic gold cardstock, and our fine detail gold powder. But look at how beautiful that looks when they're together on one card. Isn't that so pretty? Can you see that gorgeous shine?
So I have a question.
Yes.
So I've seen, and this is a Tom question.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've seen jewelry that is both gold and silver.
Yes.
Can you get away with that in card making?
Of course you can. You can definitely do two-tone. Why not? I think it's a great idea. You can even do two-tone on the same image. If you want to see that, I'm happy to show you that tonight. Okay, so did you see I just flipped that around? I'm not moving my stamp. My stamp is going to stay exactly where it is, and I'm going to complete the other half. This is one of the fastest cards you can possibly make for a holiday card. You finish this up and you put it on some layers and then put a nice Christmas greeting in the center, and you are good to go. And it's, you know, it's pretty spectacular. Okay. And then imagine a 50th anniversary. Oh, it'd be so nice for that. I remember we threw a party for my parents' 50th anniversary. And we did the whole party and planned everything. And honestly, the card that I made was the most important thing to me. Trying to figure out what kind of card to make for my parents. Okay. So there we go. We've got that second half down there. And my greeting I would put right in the center. So even though those two flowers aren't touching, I think the greeting in the center would be a great place for this. Okay, and here we go with round 2. Sometimes you just feel like doing those elegant style cards that are simple, but really are just so pretty. Isn't that nice? And you know what? I know somebody said Gina's afraid of what Tom's going to say. Both Tom and Rena, I'm afraid of what they're going to say on lives. Tom, can I ask a question? Oh boy. Okay, so that's the first one there. And you could go in either direction. Like you could have the card this way as well. And I love that tone on tone, gold on gold. Now, let me show you how different the silver looks. And for some reason, I feel like there's real, like, I don't know, real difference in those golds, right? But let's take a look at the silver now. The silver is much closer, and I think it's definitely a different look, a much more subtle look, but really beautiful. Okay, so we've got our embossing magic there. Let's use the same stamp for this, and then we'll move into the other stamp for some other things. Should we use the same stamp? No, let's use a different stamp after I inked it all up. Let's use a different stamp. This way our metallic ones will look different. Okay. I'll come back to this stamp. I love this stamp. But I also love this Tapestry stamp. You guys know that after all these years of this one being released, I still can't get enough of this one. So let's create like a side thing there. We could actually do almost like a full... Let's see, how do I want to do this? Oh, we could do it this way. And then we could put our greeting down here at the bottom. Like if the card was turned this way. Don't you think that would be really pretty? Might even be able to come across a little bit more closer to the edge. Like that. And then add a holiday greeting right down here. I think that's a perfect spot for it. So let's see how this looks with the silver. Okay. Yeah, I think it's just great for Christmas cards. And if you like to mass produce and you like to make a lot of Christmas cards quickly, and okay, I'm going to say something that I've said before, and I'm always sorry when I say it, especially if anybody's watching who happens to get one of these cards. They are beautiful, but you know how you have certain people that you make cards that take an hour for, and then you have other people on your list that maybe they're not close friends, they're just acquaintances, that you might speed up the process a little bit. Well, this is a great card for acquaintance cards, or maybe it's like, maybe you got assigned to make all the cards for the work crowd or something like that. These are great for that because you can mass produce them quickly. And they're still absolutely beautiful, but it didn't take you 4 hours to color that image. I know you guys know what I mean. I'm not being mean. I'm just speaking the truth. Okay, so now I'm going to use some silver. This is our silver embossing powder. Yep, see, I see you guys. You know what I mean.
Just thought of another word of the day.
Oh, no. Oh, gosh. The fear is setting in.
From what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. I'm ready for it. I'm always ready to laugh, I hope. All right, now let's emboss this one. Now this looks very dark when you see the embossing powder, and it's very pretty, but this is going to almost disappear and it's just going to get really super shiny and it's going to feel just look raised. It's really neat. All right, here we go. Oh, I love this. The silver. Actually, maybe I would give this to people that family and stuff. Okay, scratch what I just said if there's any family watching and you get this card. I love this card, so I want to give it to important people. All right, look at that. Look at that shine. Isn't that beautiful? And you see how it almost looks like it's engraved in there or raised, but can you see that? Oh, I love that. I know, Netta. Too late. I said it. Okay, very different look though from the obvious difference in gold color compared to this. I really like that. Pretty. And then you could put your greeting right down here. Now, if you wanted the greeting to stand out more, you could do kind of a, let's outline this whole thing with white. I know, a white little panel or a black panel, and then put it on a silver card base with that little panel kind of distinguishing between the two parts. And then do the opposite with the greeting where you have maybe a black strip sentiment here with Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays on it. Or you could actually, do maybe a gold and silver thing. So let's try the gold and silver with this look, okay? We'll try gold and silver, but I think instead of tone on tone, I'm stepping outside the name of the video here because I do want to do one that is a combination of gold and silver for Tom. So Tom, I know you have one word of the day, but you thought of another one. Would you like to share one of them now?
Yeah, before I do that gold card just reminded me of something.
What does it remind you of?
That, put it up on the screen again. That kind of reminds me of the card maker's version of The Creation of Adam by Michelangelo.
Oh, yes, the two of the fingers touching, the whatever that is.
Sort of?
Sort of, yes. Very good. I like that. That's true. All right, so let's try a little gold and silver mixing on this one. And we'll do it on white just so we can really see it. This is also a very beautiful look. Why not branch out a bit? It's the creation of Adam? Is that what that's called?
I think so.
I have embossing powder in my throat. So I'm going to get another folder so I can go back and forth with these colors. And I'm going to ink this up once again using Versamark. Silver is pretty for New Year's. So if you're having a New Year's celebration, you could use that as a backdrop for an invitation. Or if you just want to wish somebody a Happy New Year. Sometimes I do New Year's cards instead of Christmas cards, and not on purpose. Sometimes I'm just that behind. But either way, it's nice to get a New Year's card because so many people do Christmas cards, and then New Year's comes and you're like, I'm not getting any cards anymore. And it was kind of fun. Okay, so let's do this. So we'll start down here at the bottom with some silver. Okay, we'll do a little silver right here. Like that. Then we're going to get the gold going. And you can go right over that silver. It's not going to hurt the silver at all because the silver's already kind of, covered. And now we can do silver over here. Now gold. And then a little bit of silver. I can't even see the design, so I'm just going to keep going. Here we go. And then some gold. There we go. Okay. So now I've got silver and gold on there. And then we will emboss it, heat it. Get these out of the way. The last thing I want to do is just blow all this embossing powder all over the place. That would be a nightmare. One that would be a good laugh, but a nightmare nevertheless. Okay. I am going to add a little bit more gold over here because I feel like I didn't get enough on there. And also over here. I wasn't sure where the card ended, and I kind of missed those areas. Now on the white, it's a little bit more important to brush away the excess because when you're doing tone on tone, you don't really see what is called like embossing splatter, but you can see it a lot more on white, and you really can see it on black. So you do want to get a little brush and kind of clean it off if it's, you know, all over the place. But I think gold and silver would be really pretty. This one's for Tom, so we had to get it in. Okay. It's a super fun technique. And it doesn't contaminate your embossing powders at all, because once you put embossing powder over the watermark ink or the embossing ink, no more powder will get onto that area. So there's no cross-contamination at all. And look at how pretty that is. Isn't that fun?
That's pretty cool.
Isn't that cool? Gold on silver and silver on gold. Ooh, that's a good idea to try. Okay, let me do some of the colors and then I'll go back and we'll do a little panel of those as well. But that's fun. Okay. Now, let's look at what we would do if we wanted to emboss in color. Now, I don't have every color of embossing powder. I just don't. And I kind of like my metallics because they're very shiny. And I love white because white is just so great on colored cardstock when you're doing snowflakes and strip sentiments and things. But what if you want to make a card out of a color like red, for example? So this is Red Hot, and I'll cut a little piece here of Red Hot. I am going to go back to that other stamp in a little bit, but I'm having a little bit of fun with this one now. Okay. So I am going to put the embossing and watermark, the embossing magic pad all over that. And then if you just want tone on tone without shine, you can do that strictly with the embossing and watermark pad, and you can just do nothing else. And that's just going to create a deeper shade of the same color. So if you're looking for that second shade, you know, maybe you want a deeper red, red on red, maybe you wanted to stamp poinsettias on here and you want them to be just the next shade of red down, and you don't have the right red, just use your embossing and watermark pad. It will dry. It takes a little longer to dry, but you can heat set it and that'll make it dry more quickly. And you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. You'll be able to see the watermark that this leaves behind. Okay. It's a big stamp. Okay, so you see, it leaves that beautiful watermark there. Can they see that, Tom?
Yes, they can.
Okay. But if you want to take it up a notch and have that red shine, then just add a little bit of clear powder on top. Oh no, Priscilla, you had problems with cross-contamination. I'm sorry to hear that. I haven't had that. It might happen if your embossing ink isn't wet enough, but isn't that pretty? That soft white like that? I like that look too, to be honest with you. I think that's really pretty. And you can achieve this kind of look with a white pigment ink pad, because a white pigment ink pad will be white-ish, but it will be a soft white like that. So if you just stamped in a white pigment ink pad, you'll get that look. All right. So here we go. We're going to turn it clear. This is clear powder. And now this is giving us that beautiful red tone, but with shine. And what I love about it is it's always going to be the perfect match. It's always going to be in the same color family. It's not going to be like one red is too pink and one is too orange, because all it really is just clear on top. So you get that perfect amount of red, and you get that beautiful shine too, which really jazzes it up. I love that look. Yeah, let's do the white pigment pad on here. Why not? Let's just mess up the stamp. I don't care. I can clean it. Just to show you what I'm talking about. I want to make sure I have the right card size. Okay, so I'm going to grab that white pigment pad. This is the Gina K Designs white ink. And I'm just going to pat this on. You don't want to squish down too hard. It's better to just pat a whole bunch of times to get it nice and solid on there rather than squishing it down into all the little cracks in the stamp. It's pretty though, isn't it? Looks pretty on the stamp. I like our pigment ink. It's got a really pretty white shade to it. And also it makes a great like snowy background if you want it to be more subdued. And the other thing is it will dry completely. You just have to give it a little bit to dry completely or heat set it. And then if you want to do white powder on top to make it really white, if there's any little spots that you missed, see, there you go. That's that look. Oh, I love that. Now, if you want, you could do a second layer to make it a little bit darker. You just have to kind of layer the ink on there. And it's always better. I do this even with dye ink. I always layer ink rather than try to get too much ink on at once, because you can kind of distort the image if you press too hard. But if you do a couple layers, it'll get brighter as you go. Hopefully I didn't move that cardstock. I didn't know that I was going to do this, so. But you can see now it's much whiter. So that's so pretty. And then you can just heat set that, and that'll help dry the pigment ink more quickly. But if you don't have time to heat set it, you could do a whole bunch of these panels and just put them all over your stamp table, go to bed, and wake up the next day, and they'll all be dry. And if you like this softer white color, let's put one more layer on top, and we'll get back to that other embossing. Okay, we'll do one more layer of white. Oop, that's not white. That's embossing ink. Oops. It's all right. I'll just tap that off. I don't think I damaged it at all. And if I did, a couple stampings and it'll all be fine again. Okay, we're going to put one more coat of this on. Please be in the same spot. And then if we don't want that real stark white look, but we do want it to look embossed, we can go with the clear powder instead, and it'll give us that softer white look rather than that super stark white look that you would get from a white powder. Okay. Had to get rid of all the excess. And I'll pop that other stamp back on. And we could try just seeing how the silver looks on the gold, or the gold looks on the silver. And then maybe we'll make a card out of one of these. Okay, here we go. Oh, I do have my other technique to show you too. Okay. So you can see now it's paling up. Normally you'd expect it to get whiter. It's getting softer. Very pretty. I like this look. You can see very soft, nice and shiny. And that gives you a tone-on-tone look too, because that white pigment ink, because it is a little bit soft, almost gets a pinkish hue to it when you do this, the clear on top. The Tapestry, the Holiday Tapestry stamp set, I checked it right before I went on and it was in stock. So give it one more try, unless you're looking for the embossing folder. Now, if you're looking for the Tapestry embossing folder, that is on order, but I don't know exactly when it's going to be back in stock. Okay, so the way I clean these stamps when I use pigment ink is I just take them to the sink. I have an old toothbrush. It's not yours, Tom, don't worry. And then I just take a little Dawn dish detergent and I just scrub it all out and then rinse it, and they come up crystal clear again. So I'll put this aside and I'll clean it a little bit later. And then if you get pigment ink on your MISTI, that can be frustrating because it's really hard to get it off, but it's super easy if you use a little bit of Gina K Design stamp cleaner. So let me get some of that, the stamp cleaner. And I'll just put that on there. You see how it just rubs right off then? I'll also get it off this MISTI mouse pad. You can see I got some black ink off of my door that I didn't even know was on there. And the stamp cleaner has a little bit of oily residue on it. So what I like to do is, hey, Tom, can I have that Windex? I'll grab it. I'll grab it. You don't have to get up. He's got his guitar. I don't want to make him get up. Okay, so I just put a little Windex on a paper towel, and then I just go over it with some Windex just to get rid of the oily residue. And there, it's nice and clean. Doesn't hurt your MISTI at all. So there's something on there. I don't know what that is. Okay, so I did promise to show one more, and I'm going to do the gold cardstock with silver powder, just to do like that two-tone jewelry look, and we'll see how that looks. And then I want to show you one of the techniques with the embossing folder. Okay, and welcome everybody. It's great to see you here. Ooh, it is so nice to see all of you. So once again, I'm going to use my Swiffer duster. And my Swiffer duster. I saw the word Swiffer. Oh, my brain. I saw the word Swiffer duster in the comments. I'm using my embossing magic pad, which is kind of like a Swiffer duster in a way, because it does remove all the static, which a Swiffer duster kind of does. Okay, and then we'll do this one. We're going to do that. What's the painting called again? The Creation of Adam. That's right. And we're going to do the Creation of Adam card with silver embossing powder this time. Oh my gosh. It always makes me happy to see you guys laughing at me because, you know, yikes. Okay. There we go. Embossing and Watermark ink. And if you can use Versamark for this because that's an embossing and watermark ink. And you can also use pigment ink. Although if you do use pigment ink, like I could have used white pigment ink on here and then put the silver on top or the gold on top. That's just fine. You can do that because, you know, the powder is going to turn solid. So any ink that stays wet for a while will work. Okay, oh, this is going to look kind of cool, I think. Let's give it a shot and see what happens. The silver is very kind of sterling. It's a beautiful silver powder. Okay. Marilyn, thank you. I'm glad you're laughing with me and not at me. But you know what? Even if you're laughing at me, it's totally fine. Ooh, I like this one. This was a great idea. How pretty that looks. Silver on gold. You know, and that silver is so shiny, and the gold is a matte kind of gold. It's like an antique gold. So it works really nicely together. Get that in there. Go. I think somebody was asking for some relaxing music, Tom. The embossing powders I'm using are the Gina K Designs embossing powders. We have several colors. We have gold and silver. We have clear, white, and black. And the reason why we don't have a lot of colors is because, and I'll show you that too. This is kind of all about embossing tonight, really. I hope you guys are like getting something out of this. I know a lot of you are very experienced stampers, and this may seem like old hat to you, but I do hope that it just triggers a memory and you're like, oh, yeah, I like doing that. I'm going to do a Christmas card like that. Or maybe you didn't see something done a certain way before. So hopefully you're getting something out of it. And if not, maybe you're just getting a laugh. And that's okay too, because that's why we're here, for fun. It's supposed to be a fun night. All right. And this is the fine detail powder, so you can use it on those skinny lines and they don't swell up too much. But if you don't have fine detail powder, by all means, just use regular powder. All right, look at that. I really like that together. That was a great idea to do the gold and silver. And I'm sure the opposite looks beautiful too, the silver with the gold. I know, I don't emboss enough either. I saw your comment. I don't emboss enough either. And you know what? Embossing is like one of the gateway drugs to card making. This technique always is so mesmerizing when you see it. I know, isn't that pretty on the gold cardstock? I love it. So let me show you, and I did show this one night recently, but it goes by quickly. And if it's not the topic of the video, sometimes the technique almost goes unnoticed. But let me cut another piece of white here. Now, one of the reasons why we don't carry a lot of colors of embossing powder is because, number one, they are very difficult to perfectly match the ink and the cardstock. Our ink and cardstock match really nicely together, but to try to get an embossing powder that matches perfectly is a little bit difficult. But you don't have to. And let me show you what I mean. So let's say you wanted to do this vine in Tranquil Teal. So let's get some Tranquil Teal ink. But you wanted Tranquil Teal embossing powder and you don't have it. Not to worry. Use your embossing magic pad like I just did and do that part. Now we're going to get the Tranquil Teal ink pad and we're going to ink this stamp up with Tranquil Teal. And I know some of you are having a heart attack that I didn't clean it in between, but I actually sometimes use Embossing and Watermark ink to prep my stamps, and they take ink a little bit better when you do that. So don't worry, it won't hurt your ink pads. At least it won't hurt your Gina K Designs ink pads. So I'm going to do more than one coat of this because I want this to be nice and vibrant. Okay. So we'll do that second layer, maybe even a third layer. But we do want it to be nice and vibrant. Ooh, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I've got that beautiful image, but it's dull. And when I say it's dull, it's not unattractive. It just doesn't have any shine to it, so it's a dull finish. But I want to add a shine to it, so I want to make it look like embossing powder. All you have to do is clean the stamp, but don't move it. Keep everything where it is, and now go back over it with Embossing and Watermark ink. I'm going to use my whole pad up tonight. Right over the same spots. And if if you're worried, you can always go back and add a second layer, but I don't think you need to. And now I'm going to put clear powder on top of that. And now I have embossing ink in any color, embossing powder in any color that I want, because all I have to do is put the right color ink underneath and then clear powder on top. And the clear fine detail powder is really nice because it's great for those skinny words. And sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but when I do black embossing powder on white cardstock, sometimes I get all those little black speckles. But if you do black ink and then clear ink on top, you don't get the black speckles. So it is a really nice way to achieve that look. Now let's take a look here. See all that shine? Can they see that shine, Tom? It's hard for me to see on my little monitor, but see if I can get it in the right light. There you go. See it?
I see some shine.
Yeah. So it looks exactly in real life like embossing powder. It has the raised look. It's beautiful. And you got to try it. You got to try it right now. If you have clear powder, just ink up something on your MISTI and then double stamp it. Stamp it with your color and then stamp it with your clear. And you will have every embossing powder color that you now have in ink pads. So that's a little tip. And again, I really love when you're doing something like a skinny little sentiment. So we have a little piece of cardstock here. Do a little of this. We're going to move this out of the way because we're going to move on to embossing folders next. And let's find a little strip. Well, here, these are perfect little greetings. So here's a greeting that says, hello, friend. Very delicate. I don't know what's on there, but I think it'll be okay. Okay, so we need a black ink pad. And if you want this to shine, where it looks like black embossing powder, just go ahead and stamp it. Look how delicate that is. And that's the other thing. It stays delicate. It doesn't swell up at all. Okay, so now we've got that nice crisp. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. That nice crisp image. Should I call this video everything you want to know about embossing powder? Because it is kind of more of an embossing powder video than anything. Tell me what you think of that title. Okay. Now we're going to go on top with a little bit of Embossing and Watermark ink. We can do one more coat just for good measure. Now, instead of needing to brush a million bits of black embossing powder off of everything, you just put the clear on top. And we will emboss it. Oh, and that's so pretty. You can just see that little raised shine on there. And honestly, I mean, this is just something you have to try yourself because you've got to see it in real life. You've got to be able to see it to see how, you know, it's got that beautiful raised finish to it. And it's nice and black from the black ink, but there's not one speck of anything on that white cardstock. So I definitely like to use this technique. Now, one more little embossing thing before we go. It is a very overlooked thing that you just have to see how pretty it is, and hopefully you'll be able to see it. But let's just take a piece of black cardstock, because black cardstock, I use my black cardstock all the time, but I use it specifically for, I feel like that's going to be really dirty. I use it specifically for layers mostly. But black cardstock is really beautiful by itself. And sometimes you want to use black, but you don't want it to just be plain black. You want it to have a little pizzazz. So get that watermark ink pad, ink it up, ink the stamp up, and get some clear powder on that. First of all, can you see the watermark on there? I don't know if you can. I think you can. Somebody said they could see the watermarks, even though they're very light. They're really vibrant in person. You can see them in person really well, which is nice because you can see if you got everything. And now that's really pretty too, that soft white in there. Kind of that reverse look. Usually we stamp black on white, paper, and this is kind of nice to see that white on black. So if you wanted to do that with the white pigment ink, it would give it that same kind of look. Oh, good. I'm glad you can see them. Thank you. But then when we get it clear, oh, it's so nice in real life. If you can't see this, I want to go adjust the camera. I want to hand it off to Tom and see if he can see it in his camera. But hopefully you can see that. See that glossiness in there? It's so pretty and it's so subtle. So it makes a gorgeous background that people will be like, wow, how did you do that background? It just looks so glazy. But it's not intrusive at all. It's kind of the same as giving it a little bit of texture with an embossing folder, except you get shine with it, with this. And I love that. Okay, I know you can see it. Okay. All right, let's move on to an embossing folder now. Let me move this out of the way. Oh, I have ink everywhere. Doesn't mean I'm done. Just means I have ink everywhere. So now you want an embossed look, but maybe you also want it raised, and more raised than just what embossing powder can give you. I've got powder everywhere, so let me just clean that up. There we go. Okay. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate those thumbs ups, and likes. That's so sweet. I appreciate it. I really do. Tom and I appreciate it because when you do that, YouTube says, oh, some people like this. Maybe we should show other people. And some new crafters that may be looking for some inspiration get to see our videos. So thank you. So I'm going to start here with a just a quarter sheet of red hot. You can use any color you want, but I'm going to just use red hot here. This is just Masking Magic left over from another day. After embossing and inking, how do you get the shine back? After embossing and inking, how do you get the shine back? So I'm not sure what you mean. This does have a lot of shine to it, but do you mean if you ink on top, how do you get the shine back? I just buff it with a paper towel and get rid of all the ink that's laying on top, and the shine should come back. So if it's not working for you, maybe try a different brand of embossing powder, like maybe try ours because you've seen it in action and, you know, see if that works. The other reason why this is a good tip, Tom, just let me have a little face in the corner here so I'm just not hanging out with a hand. Okay, so this is a good tip to think about. If you do you ink up your thing and you put your embossing powder on top, and then you go to cook the embossing powder with your Wagner heat tool or whatever heat tool you're using, and it starts to look shiny and then all of a sudden it gets dull again, and I know that happens to a lot of people, that's because you burnt the embossing powder, and that's why it burns and it's no longer shiny. So my advice is, if your embossing tool is that hot, move a little bit faster, and as soon as you start to see it get shiny, move on. Don't hang on to that spot. Also, you can try embossing from the underside of the card. So you put your powder on top and then heat from the bottom and see if that helps. That could be the problem that you might be speaking about. All right, so now we're going to use an embossing folder, and I have the Holiday Flora embossing folder here, and I'm going to put a piece of red cardstock inside. This should have been part of my embossing folder video that I did last week. Would I ever consider a crafting weekend at a hotel? Ooh. Well, maybe. I don't know. Not right now because I've got so many obligations online, but it's a great idea, and I know that would be a lot of fun. Okay, so you can see I've got all that beautiful texture in there from this embossing powder, but sometimes you want it to pop a little bit more, right? So there's a couple of things that we can do. One thing that I like to do is to take an ink cube. Now, this is a red hot ink cube, so it's the same color But once you get this color onto the cardstock, it deepens the color a little bit. So I am going to take this ink cube and I'm going to not press down, but I'm just going to lightly rub over the surface. And you see how these are starting to pop out more? Tom, can they see that?
Of course.
Okay, good. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. See, I knew this was, I don't know if I'm going to get a card made, but either way, I think this is one of those videos that's informative and it just shows a lot of techniques. Now you can see I'm not getting down into there because I'm not pressing hard. I'm just letting this, I'm just kind of going in a light circular motion and I'm just letting it graze over the top. It's not completely covering everything, but it's hitting the edges and it's hitting some of the spots and it's just creating a lot of beautiful depth. You can also pat if that makes you happier. You can rub, whatever works best for you. I've seen people do it with a sponge dauber, and that will work too. You can ink up the dauber this way if you don't want to go direct to paper, but it's pretty easy with these ink cubes. But if you don't have ink cubes, it is harder with a pad, so you might want to use a sponge dauber. A blending brush actually doesn't work very well because those bristles will sink down really easy, but a sponge dauber definitely will work. So that's one way to do a tone-on-tone look where you really accent that look. Yeah, it does kind of really bring out the dry embossing, right? Okay, now another thing that you can do, I'll use that same embossing folder. Ooh, that's close. Let's back up. Oh, good. I'm glad you saved the video. Did you guys know that you can save this video? So if you're on YouTube, if you like the video, that's all you have to do is like it, like give it the thumbs up. And then YouTube, when you go to your own YouTube channel, you can search your liked videos and you're able to find any video that you specifically liked. So it's a way to save it. Now, another way to save it is to create a playlist on your channel. And when you create a playlist, you click on playlists and then you can create a new playlist and then you could save any videos. So let's say you like this video and you want to save it to a playlist called Embossing Techniques. And then maybe you go to Kathy Zilski's YouTube channel or Jennifer McGuire's YouTube channel and you see embossing videos you like from them. You can save all of our videos on one playlist. So that's just a little YouTube hint. You can also save videos on Facebook. So those of you who are watching on Facebook, I don't know, Facebook, you can, there's a little, I think it's in the 3 dots above the video or above the post where this video is. And if you click on that, it'll say save video. But I'll check on that. But there's definitely a way to save it. And if somebody knows a better way, please feel free to put it in the comments. Okay, now I'm going to very gently, because I don't have my ink cube here, I'm going to very gently just brush some of this over the surface. And being very careful not to press too hard, just to kind of catch some of the edges with the Embossing and Watermark pad. Now, this might look a little more grungy than the other designs, but it's definitely a cool look. You might even be able to create some gilded edges this way by using, instead of clear, a little bit of gold. Shall we try it and see what it looks like? I think it's worth a try. I haven't tried this before, so maybe I'll hate it and it'll go right in the trash. And of course, you can always use a little bit of paste, gold paste or gold ink to gild the edges. But let's see what happens. Let's just give it a try and see. Oh, 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 this is going to look very cool, I think. This is going to be more than gilded edges. I don't even know where to hold this. I'm just going to hold it here because I would trim it down after I use it anyway because it's a full quarter sheet. Okay. Now I'm going to blow away most of the excess. I need a break for a minute. Okay. And it'll give a little sparkle and shine in some places where maybe it's sunk down in there, but I think this is going to look super cool. I can't wait to try it. Okay. Yeah, we're not going to get to a card, but we got a lot of good techniques in here tonight. Maybe I'll give away the 5-minute card I made from last Friday. Okay. Yes, you can buy re-inkers for the Embossing and Watermark ink pads. We sell them on our site. We do have an order in for all of ours. All right, here we go. Let's see what happens. Oh my gosh. How cool is this? It's a little grungy, but I kind of love it. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, I have to stop because I'm gonna burn myself. Let's go over here. Again, I didn't know where to put my clothespin, but really I could have put it anywhere because I would trim it down for a card. But this is so pretty. It's like gilded, you know? And if you really wanted to take your time and brush away anything that got in the center of these designs, that would definitely, you know, clean it up a little bit. But I got to be honest, I kind of like I feel like this is like almost like a Tim Holtz kind of style. But isn't that cool? Oh, I love that. It's so pretty. And you can do the same thing with clear powder on here to get more of a look like this with the clear glossiness. It would just darken it all, just like this is a little bit darker, but it would just make all that darkness a little more shiny. So, oh, how fun is that? All right. Can you zip down on those comments a little bit, Tom? Thank you. Yeah, I like the red and the gold. I think red and gold looks really pretty together, and I think blue and silver would look really pretty together. There's something about those looks. Well, I really feel like my card from the 5-minute card video might not be so exciting to give away. Maybe it would. Let me look and see what I have here that I could give away. Ooh, this is pretty. Why don't we give this away? Okay, so this was a 5-minute card video I did using a gel pen, and I used our beautiful layered sunflower, I think it's called Spectacular Sunflower Layering Stencil, and I used shades of purple. I used lovely lavender, and then I went in with some plum punch and warm cocoa craft, and then a little bit of dark chocolate, or that's warm cocoa. Craft and a light touch of warm cocoa, and then warm cocoa in there. Could be dark chocolate. You'll have to watch the video. It's only 5 minutes long. And then I used a gel pen to accent everything. So this was a 5-minute card video I did a few weeks ago. And since I didn't get to a card tonight, this was totally technique based. Let's give this away. What do you think, Tom? Oh, and before we do that, Tom, can you please do the word of the day? Because I know everybody wants the word of the day.
Okay.
Okay, word of the day.
All right, word of the day. So this is a little bit of a surprise because this wasn't our scheduled word of the day. But do you remember when this was your father's expression?
Uh-oh.
Do you remember when he got a meal that was slightly less than perfect, or just not very impressive? Do you remember his term for that particular experience?
No. Uh-oh.
He would say he got a sling job. Do you remember the sling job?
I remember the sling job.
The sling job. And we've used that in our family ever since.
Right? We have the sling job. Yeah.
This looks like a sling job is coming. And your mother was just a fabulous cook, but once in a very great while, she got distracted. There was
She would
drama with her friends, and
she'd make a sling job dinner.
Sling job. So that's the word of the impromptu
That
word.
is very funny.
The sling job.
Yeah, and see, Tom and I, we've taken sling job and we've turned it into better than horrible, right?
Better than horrible. The sling job.
Oh, very fun. All right, Tom, do you have a word of you have a winner?
Yes.
A winner of this card. All right.
Okay, cheesy drum roll, please,
Yes.
for the winner. Jeanette Cordell.
Hey,
Jeanette Cordell.
Yay, Jeanette. Congratulations. All right, Jeanette, all you have to do is send your name and address to info@ginakdesigns.com, and I'll get this card out to you. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope that you got a lot of cool tips and tricks for embossing, different ways to use embossing powders to do two-tone and to do tone-on-tone, and even a little bit on top of an embossing folder, which is kind of fun. All right, so Tom and I will be back on Thursday for another Crafternoon Live. He hasn't figured out what we're going to call it going forward, so I'm going to stick with Crafternoon until he does. And then I'm going to try my best to be back this weekend.
No, it wasn't calling it. It was just the greeting.
The greeting?
Just the greeting. You know how you say good morning?
Okay.
You can't just say good morning.
No, you can't, because good morning, it's all different time zones.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay. Well, we're still going to call Thursday Crafternoon then. And we will be back with that. And then I will try to get another 5-minute card video out this weekend. And then I wanted to remind you all to mark your calendars for next Tuesday night, because that is our brand new release and it's our holiday release. Very excited about it. We have a gorgeous holiday kit coming and unbelievable stamps and dies from our illustrators. They all really knocked it out of the park. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. And we have a couple fun little standalone dies too that I think you're going to like. So, all right, everybody, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you being with us. Stay safe, stay healthy. We love you all so very much. And we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.